floor is yours, Senator.
Okay. Well, welcome to the Scotty and Motty and Youngy podcast now as well. May as well crowbar myself into that. This is the politics version of this. So if you are wanting some intense football debate, I suggest you listen to the previous episode on fan channels, because this is going to be quite a bit more of a heavy show today, talking about everything that's happening in Israel and Palestine. So if you are a leader or a member of Hamas watching this, then don't sue us.
I think they've got bigger fish to fry at the moment than fucking, you know.
Yeah, you never know, but I doubt it. But if you are watching and you want to subscribe, hit the subscribe button. Yeah, go on then, Youngy. I'll let you describe what.
Let's before we get into any of that shit, because I think that what we should do is, because we've had the conversation on the WhatsApp group beforehand, because I wanted to talk about it and I wanted to say that, you know, it's something that's topical, but we're not experts in this field by any stretch of the imagination. So when we're having this conversation now, it's coming from our own readings and stuff. And if anyone's offended by anything we say, it's not purposely meant. It's just from stuff that we've read, and we're quite happy to be corrected in the comments. Where I want to kick off with a caveat is that I've noticed over the last couple of days on both sides of Israel and Palestine, it just seems to be that in Israel, a lot of Muslims are attacking sort of just Jews on the basis of what Israel are doing. And then likewise, Jews are having to go at the whole of Palestine and what the Hamas is doing. And it pisses me off in all walks of life, really, when they start targeting an entire group of people based on the actions of a few. It's like not everyone in Leeds is a paedophile because of Jimmy Savile. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah?
That's
not everyone in Hyde in Tameside is a killer doctor like Harold Shipman. Just like, you know, not all Jews are behind Israel.
Not everyone in Yeovil has 7 fingers.
Great.
A lot of them do. and the majority in Sunderland did vote for Brexit.
Yeah. So glad we cleared that up. Great analogies all around there, Scotty. Well done, mate.
All day been working on that.
If anyone's still left who's not offended, we'll continue.
Right. James, lay the land.
Come on.
Right,
son.
all right, this is from a couple of things. So I read my paper today, I read The Observer. They were saying that obviously it's terrible, but my own opinion on this is that it's going to take one of these groups, whether that's Hamas or whether that's Netanyahu, to actually stand down and to stop, to then get the other guys to stop as well. Because if they keep on firing rockets at each other, I just can't see it ever ending, really. So I think one of them, whoever it is, I know it's really difficult because if they're firing missiles at each other, they want to obviously defend themselves. But I think if we're ever going to see an end to this, it's going to take one of them to sort of be the bigger organisation and to say, look, we're going to stop here. And then hopefully there can be some sort of peace talks, because at the minute it just seems to be getting worse and worse.
Yeah, I mean, on that, you'd hope that when you're looking at the sort of casualty rates on both sides of the divide, that obviously Israel are getting hit a lot less than Hamas. So I just can't see Hamas going like, we're not going to defend ourselves.
Yeah, exactly.
At all.
It's a difficult one, but again, the media and a lot of other people don't really know what's going on, because the AP, Associated Press building, was shot down, was fired at during the weekend. So they don't really have an insight. And it's similar to a lot of wars that have gone on in the 21st century. If you look at Iraq, if you look at Afghanistan, no one really knows who's won and who's lost, because it's really difficult to understand, because it's so complex. Because if you look at, I don't know, Iraq, for example, you have Al-Qaeda, who are the supposedly bad people, and they are, but then you realise that the people that were fighting against them, the UK and the US, were also bad people, and the leaders of those countries were bad as well. So, like, someone asked me the other day, what side are you on? As if it's like football almost, when both of them are not in good positions. I don't think there's Palestinians that support Hamas. I don't think there's ordinary Israelis that are supportive of their government either. So it's such a complicated issue that it's very, I don't think it's going to be solved in the next 5-10 years, unfortunately.
Well, it's been going on since 1948, I think it was, when Israel was founded and stuff. And I don't think it's got worse. I don't think, you have these certain years of peace. But what happened this time? What actually kicked this off? Am I right in thinking that Israel went in and sort of got a lot of Palestinians out of Jerusalem and then put them back into Palestine? Is that correct?
I think there's a number of things that have kicked it off. I think recently, especially, Israel have ramped up certain things in Palestine that have annoyed them, and then they've retaliated to that. So I think over the last couple of years, there's been quite a few human rights abuses in Palestine, which has then led to them reacting. So I think it's a number of different things, because the last main one was in 2014, I think I'm right in saying.
Yeah, Jay, when you've been watching this, how do you feel like the sort of news coverage has been? Obviously, James was talking about the AP building getting blown up, but I've seen a lot of people getting pissed off because the likes of Sky News have been showing they were showing like rocks being thrown from the Palestinian side. It just looked a little bit more like a fucking fisticuffs at dawn. Do you know what I mean? Rather than what was actually going on, but that was the footage that was sent. How do you feel? Do you think it's been shown on an even field?
It's weird because everyone seems unhappy with the coverage. Everyone. Like, I've seen people complaining that the coverage says things like Palestinian children were killed, or makes it out like it was almost like Palestinians were throwing rocks, like those were the perpetrators. Yeah, they were throwing rocks at a tank or whatever, so that's not the full story. Or it seems like you're treating one set of victims worse than the other. I've seen people complaining about the way Israel's been made to look like a victim. Yeah, I've seen other people complaining the way Ismail's been made to look like a perpetrator or the instigator of it all. It just seems like no one's happy with the coverage, because I've been trying to look at sort of, you know, different media and the way it's been covered. Everyone, whether you're, you know, sort of, you sympathise with what Israel are doing or you sympathise with what Palestine are going through, it seems like everyone's just unhappy with the coverage. There doesn't seem to be any balance. And I sort of think it is one of those situations. You were saying pick a side. I mean, it is possible to feel empathy towards these people on both sides. Personally, I mean, I'm not as au fait with the ins and outs and the machinations of what has gone on. I know it's a very, very complex issue. It's been going on for, as you were saying, Scotty, what is it, 70 years or whatever it is?
Yeah.
It's, you know, it's far more complex than I could possibly hope to sum up in a couple of minutes on a fucking podcast sat in my kitchen. I do think that just as a human being, a lot of what I've seen, especially when I've seen like pictures of, well, it's all horrible, isn't it? Let's not, you know, I don't want to say especially, it's all horrible, but some of the images that have resonated with me, I saw the soldiers with the kids there with the Palestinian flags, the soldiers marching into the house, and that was just, you know, horrible. The AP building getting destroyed, obviously, I don't think that's, you know, that's always, like, that was just shocking. There was the guy who went on, I think he was on CBS or something, and then he was evicted from his house later on. Those are the sort of things that really make you think, like, wow, is this really happening? But then again, on the flip side, you're going to say, well, okay, what about, you know, the rocket attacks on Israel? It almost seems like you're doing a score at times. I just feel like the one thing that stands out for me, and again, I might be wrong, and you can correct me, Youngy, because I know you've read a lot more about this. It does feel to me like the response from Israel has been disproportionate. That's definitely what I feel. I feel like, yes, I'm not denying that there have been rocket attacks, or, you know, and that, you know, innocent Israelis have been killed. I'm not denying that. It's a fact, they have. But then I've seen like buildings getting levelled, the hundreds, the death tolls rising into the hundreds, and I think it's like 16 times or whatever. And to me, it just seems disproportionate. Again, though, I'm not an expert, and people want to tell me otherwise. Okay, I'm just saying from what I've been reading and what I've been seeing, which isn't a lot. I'm not going to say I've read into this, and you can argue, well, why did you come on here and talk about it? I've read a sort of, you know, a couple of articles and certain things.
But also, I mean,
news reports. But it does seem a little bit, for want of a better expression, OTT. Well, no, not for want of a better expression. It does seem OTT. Some of the response that have been, and also I read somewhere from, and this is from an Israeli news source that was quoting it, saying, is this not Netanyahu trying to start a war to get himself the political support that he needs at home? Which, again, you know, I don't know if it is or not, but that sort of, from what I gather, could fit a narrative that isn't that far from the truth.
What I was going to say was with Palestine, especially, they are definitely treated like second-class citizens on the West Bank, in the sense that they don't really have any rights. Israel can kind of shut the borders when they want to. It's a very difficult situation for them because they basically live like second-class citizens, which is not fair, really.
No, it's not fair. It's fundamentally wrong. I mean, when you're looking back, I know you were talking about the history of it being complex and stuff like that. I mean, it's really not. It's like, it's quite. I mean, it's base level as to how it all started, in terms of, like, there was a lot of sort of wandering Jews who were living all around Europe, and especially after World War II, and they had the dream of Zion, of being a homeland, and then being relocated to Jerusalem because of the religion, for obviously religious reasons. And then the UN and Britain decided that, we'll just put all these people on top of a land where there was already people that were living there. And so fundamentally, that's wrong. I mean, could that happen in any other time and any other place around the world? Like, I don't know, a load of Canadians go over to England and say, you know what, we're moving here. All right, we'll come through immigration. No, we're going to take over this country, and then we're going to have our own rules, and then basically push everybody else out. So from the beginning, I mean, it was all a bit iffy, and I've got comments on that regarding Britain's input and how much of the biggest divisive conflicts over the world are down to our colonial powers. And you look at fucking Kashmir, Pakistan and India, Northern Ireland and Republic of Ireland. Britain's fingers were on the beginning of this regarding the mandate to move a load of Jews into Palestine. So it's wrong there. I don't see how it ends. I really, really don't, unless they both sort of split up, and then, because they're talking about it being apartheid now and just giving complete different nationalism and a border down and just shut by the moment, like James was saying. Israel have got complete control of the borders, and then when weren't they stopping food going in a couple of years ago as well, James?
Yeah, it's like an escalation of Gibraltar and Spain, but on a much worse scale. It's that type of thing whereby Spain can shut the border if they want to and stop Gibraltarians from going over to Spain to work and that type of thing. Like, the only real thing that Palestine have, which is ironic considering Sepp Blatter, is they actually have a national football team, which is what Sepp Blatter gave to them when he was president of FIFA. But I mean, that's one of the main symbols they have, but it's really difficult in the sense that I think there was a Palestinian footballer that wanted to move abroad to play for a different team, and the Israeli government stopped him from actually leaving the border to travel.
I mean, that's just absolutely unbelievable. That's just horrible. Do you know what I mean? And how did I know as well, Scotty, that Britain yet again would have covered itself in glory in this story? Do you know what I mean? But you
don't hear that. That's never discussed. It's like a lot of the people, and to be honest, I don't know how many people know about Britain's influence in it. And I know it on the back end of the World War II, that's when it came about. But the conversation was going on from, I think, 1917, when Britain was involved in it, and we're saying, okay, well, they're looking at trying to get them back. And then for religious reasons, you can understand why Jews want to be close back to their holy land. I understand that. But if you've got a lot of people living there, little bit awkward. I can't go into somebody else down the road house and go, this is my gaff now. It just can't work like that.
Didn't you do that when you were drunk once?
Yeah, and then she married me.
In all seriousness, though, I mean, whatever it takes for an immediate ceasefire has to be the priority here. And I'm sure that if the whole world was to get together, whether that's the UN or whatever, and try and force that to happen, it could happen, surely. Or am I just being ultra naive here, James? Or Scotty, you both sort of seem to have a better handle on this than me.
This is the whole thing, is that America get called out quite a lot whenever Israel and Palestine kick off. America, who claims to be the biggest, power in the world, seems to be quite silent at actually having a go at Israel for their moves and stuff. And I imagine a lot of it's like down to the United Nations to get in and say. I've heard very little from our own stuff. And I'm not what Boris Johnson said in it.
He did. I think he did a tweet. Well, when I say he did a tweet,
I know Biden's been very quiet on it.
Biden sort of, he said he did a tweet that angered a lot of people on the sort of who wanted him to be a bit more vocal about Israel's actions, where he said he'd spoke to, I think, to Netanyahu about the Palestine rocket attacks, I think he said. So let me just sort of find it, because I don't want to misquote either of them. I can't even find the one from Boris Johnson now, actually. He's spoken about anti-Semitism that we saw today. I don't know if you saw that with some of the people driving down the road. I think it was in London, shouting just horrible things. So he tweeted that today. I don't even know if he has tweeted anything. Oh yeah, here it is. On the May the 12th, I am urging Israel and the Palestinians to step back from the brink and for both sides to show restraint. The UK is deeply concerned by the growing violence and civilian casualties, and we want to see an urgent de-escalation of tensions. So that's what our fearless leader had to say on the subject. Well, when I say he had to say, I think we can, take it as green.
Yeah, I mean, what was that?
I doubt he's
what
even
was that
read
like?
To be
That
honest,
was like 4 days ago.
Yeah, yesterday or on Saturday, Joe Biden or the White House tweeted, "Today the president spoke with Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu, reaffirmed his strong support for Israel's right to defend itself against rocket attacks from Hamas and other terrorist groups in Gaza, and condemned these indiscriminate attacks against Israel." The president, this is on a follow-up tweet, it's like a thread. The president also spoke with Palestinian Authority President Abbas and conveyed a commitment to strengthening the US-Palestinian partnership. They discussed a shared desire for Jerusalem to be a place of peaceful coexistence for all faiths and backgrounds. So that feels very much like a bit of both siding the argument there. Well, not both siding the argument, but
Sat on the fence.
Yeah, it doesn't feel. I know a lot of, again, it might just be the bias on my timeline, because my timeline is a little bit more pro-Palestinian, shall we say. It's a little bit more left-wing, which tends to fall into that category than the other one. So,
well, Laurence Fox managed to find his way onto your timeline, didn't he, somehow?
Oh yeah, I mean, I've blocked him, and then it came up, and I couldn't see it because I thought, why can't I see that? I thought, oh yeah, it's blocked it, and then I saw it because he took offence at footballers holding the Palestinian flag, which is just a load of fucking nonsense. If they want to hold that flag, they can hold that flag. No one would complain if they're holding a Union Jack. And he was like, he just hurled a load of abuse at him and just said, they should all be banned or something stupid.
Typical free speech from Laurence Fox.
This is what he said. So there's a picture of Azim Chowdhury and a few of the others holding the Palestinian flag on the Wembley turf after Leicester beat Chelsea. And he's put, hound these twats out as well, or give the ball-chasing woke babies an atlas and ask them to pinpoint Palestine on a map. I mean, well done. That's just the typical shite he comes out with, and maybe the fact that most people can't point out Palestine on a map is kind of the idea. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's just the typical fucking right wing moron who moans about wokeism, moans about freedom of speech, moans about people getting offended at everything, and then gets offended at everything, including someone holding up a flag in support of a nation they feel strongly about.
But I think this is what gets lost in the sort of in the vacuum, I feel, especially on social media, because likewise, Jay, I imagine similar to you, James, is that a lot of the people who interact or I follow on social media are quite left-leaning. But you can be left-leaning and still have sort of sympathy for the innocent people in Israel that are being killed by Hamas's bombs, because it isn't Palestine left-wing, Israel right-wing. There are both the innocent peoples are getting involved in both sides of this, isn't there?
It's like the IRA, right? You can condone the IRA's attacks in Warrington and in Manchester and still be left-wing, because people have said, well, you can't be left-wing if you don't.
You mean condemn rather than condone?
Yeah, sorry.
I was about to say, wow, there's a statement I didn't expect to hear.
But what I meant, well, yeah, condemns the word I meant. But I mean, what you can say is.
I'm sat there thinking, don't know where you're going with this one, James. Bit of a hard sell.
You should have corrected him though, because he's on the beginning. He's in the beginning of his career. We could have kept that clip 20 years down the line. Like, I've got footage of James Young when he said he could.
That stinks of the front page of the Daily Mail. Hey, leading news anchor,
James Young
condones, supports IRA bombing of innocent children in Manchester or whatever.
He's got me and him stinking and pissing and all folks home like this. I got your back, Jay.
That'll pay for our fucking medication. Sorry, James. You were.
What I was saying was right.
Right, go on.
You could condemn.
Thank you. It's important. Do you know what? Sky did that to me, right? Sky did that to me with the fucking attack on Ed Woodward's house. Attack. My first words when James Cooper interviewed with me were, I'm not condoning it, but I can understand why people are getting so angry and why sometimes that anger is spilling out into what we're seeing. And the headline was, United fan condemns attack on Woodward's house. And I was like, just because I didn't condone it, don't mean I condemn it. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. It was just fucking stupid. Sorry, mate, go on.
Well, what I was saying was, right, so you can look at that and you can go, that's not on, and you don't have to support the IRA, and you can still be left-wing, because some people have said that because of Corbyn, because of the whole reunification of Ireland, that's quite a traditional left-leaning stance amongst certain people, And I've heard a couple of people say if you don't support Palestine, if you don't support the IRA, then you can't be sort of hard left.
Yeah, it does feel like it has become almost like that, doesn't it? And you know, there's obviously a lot of people who know what they're talking about, who've done their own work, who say, you don't have to do your own work to see kids getting, you know, coming dragged out of buildings that have been flattened and being fucking horrified by that. But there's an element of people who just, I think who, not jumping on a bandwagon, but maybe aren't as up to speed with the entire sort of history of what's going on, or why this has started, or what is going on, or how there is, you know, atrocities on both sides, or that's on both sides. I just feel that sometimes it does become this thing where if you're right wing, then you must support this, and if you're left wing, then you must support that.
But it's a lot harder to explain why these things happen, though. That's the thing the media often don't do. They just sort of say what's happening, but then actually don't explain why. They just show the same clips.
No, that's true. That is true. And it's, you know, sometimes it just gets sort of almost oversimplified. And it's like, and, you know, there's a, you know, as I keep saying, there is an element of, okay, that is bad.
Yeah.
That is horrible. I can look at that and go, that is fucking disgusting. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't need a backstory to tell me that. But then you do get it where it can be a little bit oversimplified it into like, you know, that entire group are all, or that entire people that follow that religion are all bad and that are all good. And that's when you start getting into fucking nonsense. And it's like, hang on a minute, let's just slow down because you're talking rubbish. That's what I was trying to get at the beginning. And I saw a great tweet before I came on, and it said, it's okay at times to say, I don't have enough knowledge on this subject to say I don't have an opinion. That's okay to say that sort of thing, rather than sort of throw your voice behind a certain thing. And I think that was the problem when you're seeing them lads in London today with the Palestine flags shouting all sorts of things about Jewish people. I was like, it's horrible when people get xenophobic about Islam or Islamophobia based all Muslims on terrorist attacks in the name of Islam. That's horrible when that happens. Don't do the same fucking thing, because that's what you're doing. And the last time it all kicked off, there was loads of there was a whole thing regarding like Jews of Palestine, because when you look at the population of Jews in Israel compared to Jews all over the world, I'm going to make a guess that there's probably more Jews outside of Israel that have never actually visited it. So I don't know why you can, what gives you the basis to be able to sort of categorize, call a whole religion based on the action of a government as well. Really, it's not doing it in the name of religion, is it? It's a government initiative.
But that's why you have to criticize the government instead of the state of Israel, because then because it's anti-Semitic. Then if you blame the whole of Israel for everything that's happening, because there's people in Israel that condone their own government.
Because it would, because we hate it being condemn their own government. Yeah. Because we fucking hate it, and I do hate it that when we went to the Iraq War, it's like all the people in the Middle East all saying that they're all warmongers over there in England, and none of us fucking wanted it. But it's the same situation. You know, I wouldn't want people to say that about us.
It's like Thatcher in the Falklands. It's a similar sort of thing. Like Argentinian people, like there's a resentment there, but a lot of people in the Northwest and Liverpool, Manchester especially, hate Thatcher.
True.
Yeah, very true. I mean, I know this is a very expansive question, but how do you see this ending? You said, I think it was you, Scotty, who said it's just going to go on forever.
It doesn't until they can sort of Palestine can survive on its own, where it's got root. Because I'm pretty sure that Palestine hasn't got access to land mass, so anything that comes into Palestine has to either come via boats or it has to come via Israel. So now until Palestine has the means to be able to sort of survive by itself and be able to get food packages, because they had to do it by boats last time, and even that was causing controversy because Israel was saying it was their waters, and I'm kicking off with people doing it that way. So unless Palestine are given the ability to survive and become our own nation outright, then I don't see how it's sort of how we get past it. This will play out one way or another. Somebody will come down, and I think it'll probably down to the influence of the UN or US or whoever else. But it'll kick off again in 2-3 years or 4 years. You know, that's how it's happened. Like for the last 70 years. 1978, I think there was a huge one where lots of people were killed, especially in Palestine regarding it. So I can't see any obvious or clean-cut endings to this, and in the long game. But I think we've got a few weeks to go of more casualties, I'm afraid.
No, I agree. And just when you think it can't get any worse, you just see more images, more footage, more numbers, statistics. And I hate using that word, but that's what it becomes, doesn't it? It's just more statistics that just absolutely, sicken you. And like you say, I just hope that we do see some sort.
Do you think if Israel pulls its troops out, it'll actually destabilise it more? Because then, if Palestine's just to govern itself, and that could maybe lead to Hamas getting more power within the state.
But the thing is that what you mean? Well, like Israeli troops being withdrawn from Palestine back into Israel, yeah. Okay, so the thing is with that, from my understanding, is when Jay was talking about the rockets being shot from both sides and it being disproportionate on Israel's side. Let's not get this twisted. Hamas are trying to kill people in Israel with them rockets and throwing them over. That's not. They're not going half-assed. It's just that they've got limited capacity. So I don't understand what you do if you're in control of a country and you're trying to stop somebody else. You're going to go in with what artillery. But you don't put on your fucking your second striker if you want to win the game, do you? I hate that I use a football analogy, but
No.
We're 3-0 down at half time.
Yeah,
as,
do you know?
Mr. Valance said.
No, you're right. Do you know what I mean? Like, I know, like using that analogy, but you're right, and it's like, I don't know. It just seems like such a complex issue as well, and like I just feel like I don't know whether it's me. Am I being lazy? Am I not looking into it enough? Are we not getting enough information? What is going on here, and how is this sort of being portrayed, and are we not sort of seeing the full stories, or it's not been explained, or is it a case of we all need to take a bit more time to look into this, to read about it, to get the full sort of, not the whole history, but a little bit of the background as well, and try and form our opinions on that, because it's easy to just be a bit reactionary and post a picture and just say, and at times it calls for that, don't get me wrong, this is fucking awful, my thoughts are with these people.
Yeah,
is more often than not a completely appropriate response. But when you started getting into the arguments and this and that and this is wrong and rah, then just to have a bit more information, I think is vital. And I think that's one thing. Certainly in my own case, I could do more of that. Let's have a little bit of a look at this, because my instinct often is, I'll be honest with you, my instinct is on the side of the Palestinians. But then you think, well, what does that mean? On the side of what? All of them against all of them, which I know isn't right, but that's just, you know what I mean, how sometimes it feels. And then you think, okay, what's going on here? Why is this happening? And who are the actual, perpetrators and stuff, rather than just going, oh, it's like you say, James, you don't just pick a side. This isn't football. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, sometimes my instinct sort of feels that way, because it feels like, well, these are the oppressed, these are the oppressors.
Because I know a few people that were at the...
There's more to it than that.
I was going to say, I know a few people that were actually at Free Palestine rallies on the weekend that don't understand it at all, but have just sort of gone along with it because that's the side that everyone's choosing.
Yeah, and that's what happens on social media. Is I see people who I think they probably have the best place in the heart when they're putting Palestine flags next to their names, but I'm not having it when you see that you're into politics and you're having any basis on it. You're just trying to be in with the trend, and I just wish more people would actually do a bit more reading. And Jay, the fact that you said you've not done much research yourself, but you're an educated guy. You're clever and stuff like that, but you realise that, so you don't make a certain opinion. But it just shows how little of the story we get told over here in Britain, especially the full scope. And that's what happens. It kicks off every so often. It stops again, and it's it's like a fucking volcano. It's like that's what Palestine and Israel is like. I said, like an active volcano, and it'll calm down again, and then 5 years later, it'll fucking shoot up again, and nothing will be solved because we don't fucking talk about it.
It's like Dante's Peak. Have you seen that film?
That's one of the worst films ever. It came out. It came out.
It's got an opinion on that.
It came out the same time as, was it Volcano with Tommy Lee Jones? So you had two shit volcano films that came out at the same fucking time.
Has there ever been a good volcano film?
That's a very good point there. Yeah, you make a point. I will say one thing though. Whilst you're right in everything you've said, then I agree. I know I've got quite a few mates and a few close friends who are very passionate about it, have done their own work, do support the cause, are very sort of, vocal in there, defending or sticking up for some of the Palestinians and what's been going on there. And there is that part of it as well.
Yeah.
Within, I know you're not getting at that. I'm just making that point because I know I've got a few friends who feel very strongly, and they have a reason to. But yeah, you do get sometimes this sort of broad oh, it's it's us against them and I'm on this side. And I think that's where we all fall down a little bit.
Yeah,
but it's broad generalizations, isn't it? It's like people that say like all the police are racist. Of course, there's a systematic issue there within the police force, but
yeah,
I'm not sure every single officer within the police force is racist. There's probably a large proportion of them that are, but there's probably some that are actually trying to do good work.
Yeah, I'm going to say probably the black and Asian cops aren't racist. Do you know what I mean? But people do make them sweeping generalizations, and they're fucking. I don't know if it's where we're moving now as a society because we have such a small attention span. It's that when you skim through fucking Twitter and you see certain things like clickbait, like, all right, that must be right, and then just and then you move on. They have a conversation about something like, oh, fucking bloody Israelis and Palestine and stuff, and it's just not right. And just in case anyone wants where I fall either side, my thoughts and feelings are with the innocent people on both sides who have no control as to who's throwing rockets over, and then unfortunately are having their lives torn apart or ended by the actions of a few. And I think we should support both of them.
It's like any war, though. There's always innocent people that get caught up because it's conflict. So like. There was people in Iraq. There's people in Afghanistan. There's people in Ireland as well.
But it's 2021 now.
Exactly.
It's 2021. We should be able to sit down over a game of fucking chess or something, whatever they're playing nowadays, Pokemon or whatever you fucking young kids are up to. And have a fucking Fortnite. Get Netanyahu and Hamas and fire your rockets on fucking Halo on your Xbox or whatever the fuck it is. And do you know what I mean? That we should be able to do that now. And it just seems so. It's so primeval now, isn't it?
Get them to do a pack opening on Ultimate Team together on FIFA. That'll sort it.
There you go. But we should. Why can't we? Why can't we enter into debate? And then people have the conversation about. Someone put on my Twitter the other day, oh, fucking religion! Religion is the cause of all wars. And I'm like, well, actually, it wasn't, because there was no religious wars before fucking the holy wars in like the early 100s, and there was a lot of people getting killed before then. Do you know what I mean? With the Roman empires and stuff. So I hate that religion gets brought in as being this sort of that's the cause of everything, because I don't believe that it is.
And it's people using religion as well as a bandwagon, like ISIS, for example. There's nothing in the Quran that says you must commit acts of atrocity. It's just them using Islam to basically use it to commit acts of terrorism, when they're just using it as almost like a scapegoat to associate themselves with.
Yeah, definitely. It's just bizarre. It's tiring. I find it very, very tiring that we just seem. This just seems to be, when you look over the last 18 months, everything that's kicked off with the Trump administration, Black Lives Matter, fucking coronavirus, and then this, and then you know what? It might be a volcano that fucking ends us, and I bet it'd make a cracking film.
It'd make a better fucking film than the one that's two that have been out.
I tell you, right? I saw a terrible film earlier by mistake, because I have a streaming device that's definitely legal, and I wanted to watch Premier Sports, and instead it was showing the Sky Sports Premier movie channel, and it was this terrible film about this guy. I think it was called Rent-a-Pal or something like that, and this guy had these VHS tapes that he was putting in, and it was this rubbish horror film where the VHS tape was this guy talking to him that was trying to be his mate, and then he ended up killing his mother that had dementia and his girlfriend that he met through this tape dating service, and it was just awful. Terrible film.
Rent-a-Pal?
Yeah.
Right, I need to check that out. I'm still trying to work out what went on in Tenet. I watched that the other night, and I think I might have to watch it again, because I think I missed some of it.
I did one of those things, you only get about 70 minutes into a film and you think this is terrible, and then you just read through Wikipedia to get to the end, because I can't be bothered to watch the rest of it.
I do that so many times, seriously.
Yeah, but my missus is watching have you seen the Underground Railroad series that started about the slavery? Secret. I think it was Harriet Tubman who started the railroad.
Yeah.
I think there's a new series started downstairs. She's watching it on Prime downstairs. But I said to her, it just depresses me. And I know you can't do like a Disney version of slavery, but you have to be in a fucking like the mindset to watch that sort of thing. That's why, like, the first 10 minutes I was like, this is just going to be hard to watch, and it's just like I'm sure it's really good though.
It's like Adam Curtis. It's really difficult to watch because of how depressing it all is. You have to be in the proper state of mind to watch it.
Yeah.
It's like shit.
Yeah, you need some fucking good old escapism after you watch an Adam Curtis fucking
In the
documentary.
20th century, that's all changed. Because crucially, that was a lie.
Oh man, so Tenet was a waste of time then, JR.
No, it like visually. Obviously, you know what Nolan's like. You're always gonna get, you know, a visually fucking explosive film and like worth watching in that sense. It was just, it's very sort of complex, the plot. And there's this thing like, apparently I read up that it was dubbed that way, like you struggle to hear what they're saying sometimes. It's not like, it's like the noise sort of is louder than the dialogue. So you miss certain words, and apparently that was like deliberate. I don't know why. And then I was like, it's weird because it's one of those films where you're a little bit confused, but you can still say it wasn't a bad film. Do you know what I mean? It was like, it was a, I know this sounds like a contradiction, but it was a good film. It's just, I felt a little bit too confused by it.
Yeah, trying to be clever for him.
Yeah, and I'm like, I'm not quite sure what the fuck was going on for a big part of that film. It was great to look at, and some of the fucking effects and everything else and whatnot was good, and there was a part of it where you do get what's going on, but there's somewhere I'm like, right, I'm fucking lost there. But a few people, I sort of give you an indication of what I thought of it. A lot of people, when I put on Twitter, like, I've watched it and what I thought of it, were saying, you know, I watched it again and you watched it a second time, and I'm willing to give it another go. I'm willing to watch it again, because it wasn't that bad where I go, fuck that. It wasn't like Rent-a-Gob with James where he's like, I'm pretty sure he won't be returning to that to give it a second viewing. I would watch Tenet again.
The legal stream that I was watching it on just stopped, so I didn't even wasn't even able to finish it even if I could. So
fucking hell, that's even worse.
Well, unlike you, I mean, I quite like your film reviews that you do on your Twitter account that are quite efficient in terms of 3 lines, 6 out of 10.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, it's a fucking. It's like, because I have issues with sleep, and after this, I mean, we're recording this late at night. I'll probably watch a film before I go to bed. So I just fucking like, because it's like I'm knackered. It's usually 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. or something. I'll be like, right, I've just watched, you know, I don't know, Promising Young Woman or whatever. Yeah, it was mint, fucking great film. Watch it. Whereas, and plus, you know, I don't think anyone's coming onto my Twitter feed for an in-depth fucking film review. If they are, they're gonna get disappointed because they ain't gonna get it.
I've just finished watching that Plot Against America. Have you seen that yet? The David Simon series.
No,
new
I
series.
haven't.
Yeah, it's really good. You're like it as a fan of American politics, because it's an alternate history of when. Let me get this right. Was Roosevelt up against Lindbergh? Was that who he was up against?
No, Lindbergh. The thing with Lindbergh is Lindbergh was sort of almost pro-Nazi. If I can say
that's the thing, yeah. So
it was very much America First, the first America First movement. He was isolationist. He didn't want America to go into the Second World War.
Yeah.
He was he's viewed as a Nazi sympathiser, basically, because, you know, the Nazis were bad. There's not a fucking debate there. But he was like, it's now to do with us, leave us to it. As well as JFK's dad was quite like that as well. And he was the ambassador to Britain. And he was like, Britain's going to lose this fucking war. We should just stay out of it.
We're not getting involved.
Yeah, and in the end, I think Roosevelt sacked him as ambassador or brought him back. And him and fucking, that was the end of his political career. And that's when he focused on his kids. First, his eldest son, fucking hell, I've forgotten his name, who died in the war, and then obviously turned to JFK. Joseph Jr., that was the son that died in the war, and then he turns to JFK. So, yeah, it's obviously an alternative history then of Lindbergh.
Yeah, so Lindbergh's
political career ended with that.
Yeah, so Lindbergh wins, and then the upshot of it is that America don't go into the war, and yet you've got all these sort of the Jewish people who live in America that are sort of feeling that, oh, well, if you're not going over to sort of save the Jews that are being killed over in Germany, how does that make you feel? How do we feel within America? And it's David Simon. He wrote the Wire and stuff, so you know it's really well written. But it's the paranoia that runs through it. There's like one scene, and where they meet someone, and you don't know all the way through it as to whether he's going to be a good or a bad guy. And I've not watched a piece of film in ages that had me sort of, I didn't know, you know what I mean? I was like, he's a bastard. No, he's not. And he really, really caught up and played you. It's really, really clever. But yeah, it's really, really good watch. So I'd watch that. It's on Prime, Plot Against America.
Cinemas reopen from Monday, don't they? So, are you a fan? Because I really can't stand the experience sometimes. You know, if you get someone behind you that like kicks your chair and rustles too loudly with the food, and the floor's too sticky, and the ticket machine doesn't work. There's a lot of things that can go wrong.
No, I go to cinemas to sleep. That's usually because I bring the kids in and they're there, and it's dark room, keep them entertained for 2 hours, and I'm out, and I usually have my best tips.
Do you sit in the premiere seats even though you've not paid for them?
No
Do you know
comment.
what? If you go to if you go to the Lowry, it's so cheap now for those like all the seats are like those big recliner ones, and it's I can't remember what it is, but it's dead cheap. So yeah, we go there, and it's such a better experience because it's like it's proper. Like you can sit, you've got like the big arms and everything, and it reclines and all that. So that sort of changed my view because I used to be like you, James. It was like. It annoys me that it's premiere seats anyway, because cinema's dear enough without having the extra fucking just pay this little bit for a good seat. That should be a standard anyway. You should get a good seat. So there's that. Plus you get absolutely rinsed on pick and mix and all the rest.
You got to smuggle in food as if it's some sort of like.
You don't actually have to do. You don't actually have to do. You're allowed to bring food in. It's legal to do that. It's just that they made it out to be that you couldn't.
It also
go on.
It also feels like, you know, I don't know, like, you're getting the full cinema experience. Like if you go there and you get the pick and mix and you do all that, and it's like, you get a big bottle of Coke, and it's like if you're going in there with your bottles and your fucking stuff that you've bought from Aldi, you feel a bit like I'm sort of cheating.
Consumerism, it's on you, mate. That's it.
Look at that. You got to switch that narrative around and go like, fuck you, I'm sticking it to the man. You know, and then feel good about yourself.
Right. For people that are wondering, I'm going to move in September, so I can say this. If anyone is interested in going to the Odeon at the Red Dragon Centre in Cardiff Bay, before it might have changed now, you could go to the screen and look at what screen it was on, and because the security was so tight, you could just walk straight in without paying. So if anyone's interested in how to not pay, that's how I used to be able to do it.
Obviously, we can't condone that or condemn that.
Yes. We absolutely condone that behaviour. I mean,
I got kicked out once because when I was about 14, this is how much fun I used to have. We just walked into an 18-rated film because just for the fun of it, and like 2 minutes in, the security came in and they were like, "Oh, you need to leave. You're not old enough to be in here."
What was it? Do you remember what film it was?
No, can't remember what film it was.
I used to work in a cinema briefly, and it was a fucking nightmare. You're just a glorified cleaner. Do you know what I mean? That's all you're doing. Is like
a lot of waiting around, isn't there?
Yeah, and it's like obviously when a new film comes out, it's great because you can sneak in and watch it, and then it's like after you've watched it a couple of times, like you're just fucking bored of that. And then plus a lot of the films aren't that good as well, or you've seen them, or you're not that interested in. And it wasn't like I genuinely envisioned it as like I'm just going to be sitting around in the cinemas watching films all day, but no, it doesn't work like that.
Did you ever go in that little projector room behind the screen?
I don't think I did.
See, that sounds cool. That's that sort of side of the cinema.
I don't think I did like the counter stuff, like working behind the counter, and then like cleaning the screens. And it was just like, you know, not the actual screens, you know what I mean, like cleaning the screens.
Very quite hard to clean that.
You know, wow.
Picking up the litter basically, and it was like, especially if you had a film like, you know, I don't know, The Incredibles or whatever, and it's just like 500 kids have just wrecked their gaff, and it's like, right, you just got to go around and clean all that up before the next showing. It didn't last very long.
What do you make of people that clap at the end of films?
I think they're up there with people that clap when the plane lands or when the fucking the capacity announced, the attendance has been announced at Old Trafford.
That's
like,
weird,
what are you clapping for? Stop doing that.
Yeah,
absolute
you fucking
wrong'un. Like,
yeah.
74,000.
Mad tourist.
I mean? Yeah, we've just spent fucking 40 quid to watch United draw with Burnley. Go us. It's like, nah, mate, come on.
Yeah, mate, you got to take pictures when you can get them.
Well said.
So if United are winning highest attendance of the year, I'm there for that, man. After our form.
I do the same joke every fucking game as well. I applaud and go, you don't get out of the Etihad. Every fucking game. I need to stop. When we get back in there.
You ever been to have either of you been to Asia?
briefly. When I flew to Australia, I was in Kuala Lumpur and I think Dubai Airport for about 3 hours, if that counts.
No, that doesn't count for what I talk about. But thank you very much. Lovely airport is Dubai. It's like at the beginning of the cinema when you go to like I think most of Thailand, India, Kuala Lumpur, you have to stand up and do the national anthem before every single film, and and the whole of the cinema stands up. And I had to stand, because I didn't want to be like left out and looked at like a lunatic. So I stood there doing like the fucking national anthem. What are we doing here? Actually, funnily enough, Thailand is where I've seen Inception, which is one of the best pieces of cinema I've ever seen in my life, which is a Christopher Nolan film. Absolutely love that film.
He fucking reinvented the wheel, didn't he, with Dark Knight? Like, the superhero films were shite. And it was like Batman in particular, like that was all over. Do you know what I mean? After fucking George Clooney and Arnold Schwarzenegger buried the franchise. But, when I remember watching The Dark Knight at the cinema and Dark Knight Rises as well, in particular, I thought they were fucking amazing.
It's like the Glazer protest the other week was Dark Knight, when he's on the pitch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you see the guy dressed like Bane as well?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that was fucking quality, that, with his sheepskin on. The shit he must have got off his mates fucking the day after. What were you doing? Like a fucking Primark Danny Dyer, wasn't it? Fucking...
I love the fact he had that coat. He even has that, and he had it, and he's like, that is proper Bane tackle, mate. Well done. You show him, son.
Yeah, with his stonewashed jeans and black shoes as well. They weren't helping anyone, him.
That was a reach combo, that, wasn't it?
Can you imagine if you had to give like a police ID? What did he look like?
He had a
car salesman from the 1980s.
Yeah, he had a full-length sheepskin coat on, some black paint and leather shoes.
Are you sure? Was he not wearing Stolen Island, no? CP company?
Bless him.
I forgot to ask, did any of you see the video that United put on Twitter about welcoming fans back that got loads and loads of stick? Because it looked
I seen you complain about it.
It looked like it was made by like an 8-year-old. It was like a cartoon of like welcoming fans back, and then at the end it had a thing saying like safety first or whatever with the Aeroflot logo next to it, who I think still have the highest deaths for any airline ever in terms of crashes.
Travel safe. Okay, now that's what you want in a safety campaign, isn't it? Jesus. Are you two going to the game on Imagine You Are, Jay? No?
No, I didn't apply, mate. You talk about the Fulham game, yeah?
Yeah.
A big part of me going to the game is seeing people I don't usually see. Otherwise, I've got like a few mates that we all stand together and stuff. That's what I really enjoy about the game as well, not just watching the team getting behind them, but being it's sort of my social thing with those set of people, and obviously that's not going to happen. So just because of that a little bit, I just thought I'll miss this one out. I'm going to sit it out probably until we get back to normality, if you can call it that, where we've got everyone back in. I know that might be a while, but yeah, that's just how I feel at the minute. I just feel I don't really want the diluted version, and also there's people that are more keen than I am, and probably more will fucking be more vocal than I am. So let them have it. Let them have that seat. Yeah. I'll go when we can get back in fully.
What about you, James?
8,000 passengers have died on Aeroflot, so that's the safe airline for you. No, I can't.
Get out.
It's midweek and I can't get a train back or afford to stay in a hotel for the night, so I don't think I can.
United fan, hey? What the fucking sort of attitude is that? I can't afford to stay in a hotel. Well, fucking stay on the street.
Mate. No, to be honest, I mean, I have done it before where I've gone up during like Tuesday and Wednesday night and then come back.
Please don't tell me you've slept rough to watch Manchester United.
No. Worse than that, I've come back on the coach at like 3:30 and then woke up at 6 on 2 hours sleep.
Fucking hell.
Did that before. I got work experience because my mom's a teaching assistant, right? And her school got free tickets to see United Partizan Belgrade. So they all went on a school trip to see United play. And then I just went with work experience with them and then got back at like 3:30, 4 o'clock and then woke up 2 hours later and went to school.
Fucking hell. My hardest journey about the United game was Barcelona, because I think we flew Barcelona to Madrid, Madrid to Southampton, and I had to get a fucking like 10-hour National Express from Southampton all the way back to Manchester. And I was dying, mate. I was on my ass, fucking hammered it all the night before, as you would. And that, yeah, it was a long old journey, that one. But it's been fun. It's been funny with the people on social media saying, "Oh, well, you shouldn't be going. You should, you're putting money in the Glazers' pockets and all that." I was like, listen, how many games? Unless I don't think you have a valid opinion on that, unless you're a fucking match going red. Anyway, and I don't think you should be telling another fan how they should protest or how they should stand against their club. It's their club as much as it is anybody else's.
Yeah, 100%, definitely. And I think this is the problem now. We've already seen it, haven't we? Factionalism or whatever you want to call it, or arguing with it, it's like, oh, let's all have a dig at each other and let's have a dig at these fans and let's, this is how we should protest and this is how we shouldn't. And this is, you're doing it wrong and how can you say this and all this? And it's like, come on, man.
It's embarrassing.
It is. We've already started fucking got almost playing into the Glazers' hands. I think in many ways with a lot of this.
I was going to say there's so many different factions within United's fan base. You've got Stretford End Flags, you've got Red Issue, you've got TRA. There's about 4 or 5 different fan groups, and some of them don't get on with each other at all.
No, and I think you have to bury that and a little bit. And there's this thing that's been announced by the time this has come out. I think Steve and a few of the other lads on the channel are working with Gary Neville and on this regulatory thing that he's going to lobby the government with. And I think that's a sort of coming together with some fan channels that don't necessarily get along.
Yeah.
And I think there's there needs to be a little bit of that. I think we have to sort of put differences to one side, and I've had a few conversations, I talked about last time, conversations with people that don't usually have conversations with us, just because we've got a common goal and actually see how that can be beneficial to them to work with us. So you're right, it's got a will out, but it's just fucking United, isn't it? It's just football. Football fans just love arguing, and especially United, we love arguing with each other, don't we? So we'll see what pans out with that one.
No, yeah, you don't need a civil war where you're trying to fight a world one, is it? I suppose that's what that's what's fucking going on at United.
Said my friend.
I do try. All right, what's the plan for the week ahead?
We've got United Tuesday, haven't we? Then when is it Tuesday, Sunday, and then that's it, and then it's the Europa League.
I hope fucking Chelsea win the fucking European Cup.
Oh, don't mate. Did you watch the FA Cup final?
No, I was working, but then I see it seeing like the at the BBC the model all for. Oh, I'll tell you what, I'll talk about that yesterday. The BBC, I sent you the video, didn't I?
Yeah.
So yesterday at Media City, they had like anti-vaxxers protesting 2 days before fucking we're all allowed to go back to normal. They were complaining about being locked down. They also had like Palestine protests, child trafficker protests. They had like talk about like so many different like diluting the message, so many different sort of protesters. But we're all going to go to Media City on the same day. And then I got a phone call from the boss of the BBC and said you're going to have to phone ahead to security to try and get in through a secret tunnel or whatever because they've locked all the doors and you weren't allowed in or out of the building. And then by the time I got there, because the rain had started, they'd all pissed off. They were that arsed about the message. They couldn't fucking fight through the rain. So I got there and I didn't get to see any sort of secret passage. But it was just pathetic. It's like a dystopia now. So many protests, isn't there, at the moment? Like everybody was like, I just don't know a time like it. Will all this stop once we go back to the new normal, do you think? Or do you think people are sort of that much on edge that they want to fight about something? I've seen Sasha Lord got twatted last night for what he's been doing. Did you see that?
No, what happened?
So he was out last night and then two 50-year-old blokes were having a go at him about how he'd been sort of lobbying the government regarding sort of opening up hospitality. Ironically, they were out when they were doing it, and all he's done all the way through is try to get the government to sort of people open up hospitality at the same time as everything else due to the science. And the fucking one belt and the 10 belt or whatever you call it, punched him in the face and then fucking attacked him. And then they've been kicked out of a pub.
What was their gripe with him? Why were they upset with him?
From what I've obviously I've not heard their side of it, but I've seen Sasha's side. Let me say it was based on like his actions over the last 12 months or something. I think
it was to do with the fact that because he supported all this stuff, people think he's a hypocrite because there was other nightclubs. I think it was Gorilla, maybe one of them, and a couple of other venues in Manchester that they think he's allegedly to do with them closing and not supporting, and then going on the bandwagon or park life or something to do with that. I can't remember specifically, but I think people are calling him like a hypocrite.
Well, he was saying, so he's punched regarding my views on reopening. It's fucking, I mean, belting people. And that's where we're at now, though, because I've had massive sort of arguments on social media where I've had to, I'm on Facebook with friends that I've known for 15, 20 years who've revealed themselves to be fucking scientists and political, geniuses, and I never knew all this sort of stuff, and then they're coming out and telling me how it's all a hoax. And but if you challenge them and say, "Can you just?" This is the conversation. It goes, Chris, I'm not trying to call you names. I'm genuinely, if it's all bullshit, then I need to know. Point me in the direction of the evidence, mate. Show me. No, well, you can go on YouTube and find. Mates, show me the fucking shit that will change my mind. If I knew something with you having will pull over your eyes. Believe me, I tell you. Oh, you don't believe me. I said, I'm asking you to show me, and he just got, and then he got fucking. You just being a fucking dick now, Scotty. I was like, I'm not. I really wasn't either. I was like, I wanted him to show me the evidence, and he couldn't. And it's just like how easy people are sort of fucking, the minds have been manipulated by the likes of fucking David Icke and the lizard people.
No, I see it, man. There's a couple of people I follow on Twitter that I know, and I saw a few tweets after this Indian variant was kicking around saying, oh, of course there's a new variant, just as there is in restrictions, how convenient and stuff like that. And it's like, you've lost the plot.
Yeah.
radicalised.
I think me and you were saying about Scotty, weren't we? I've got mates who I've literally snorted things we found off the floor with. Do you know what I mean? Like, we found a bag of powder, let's see what this is. Oh, it might be dodgy, okay, we'll just do half a line. And they're giving me lectures about, oh, well, you don't know what's in these drugs these vaccines are giving you. I'm like, dude, we used to take drugs we found on the floor in a club. Do you know what I mean? And now you're like telling us we don't know what's in this fucking vaccine that's been approved and all that. And it's like, oh, you man putting that in your body. I'm like, really? I think that shit failed about 20 years ago, fam. So, yeah, it's like... Now's not the time for me to start being fussy about what was. That
horse has bolted about 20 years ago, mate.
And now they're all sort of pharmaceutical experts. Do you know what I mean?
I know,
really. And also they're keeping tabs on you. I'm like, mate, I'd tweet my fucking life story. If anyone wants to keep tabs on me, they only have to follow me on Twitter or Instagram, and they can tell you exactly where I am and what I'm doing. You know what I mean? I'm not exactly the most.
Why would Bill Gates want to keep tabs on you anyway?
Exactly.
What?
Do you know what I mean? What good is that going to do him? Oh, fucking hell, Jay's been, sat in his boxes watching The Sopranos again. Fucking hell, let's log that one. Do you know what I mean? It's like, there's nothing interesting or particularly, earth-shattering that anyone would want to fucking follow me about, especially Bill Gates. I'm sure he's got other things on his mind, like the fact he's losing a fucking fortune to his ex-wife. So, it's just nonsense.
I remember my dad, you got WhatsApp and like your parents send you around these messages saying like, oh, you better delete so-and-so because they're tracking your messages and stuff. And I think it was when WhatsApp was selling to Facebook or whatever, and he sent me this message saying, oh, they're tracking all your information, Dave. And I said, fuck, what would MI5 want with a fucking meat delivery man from South Manchester? I love you, Dad, but you're not fucking Jason Bourne.
I love that. Your dad a comedy gold, mate, honestly. You really are top draw, man. It's so funny, but yeah, I get it sometimes, and you're just like, I get it with some of my mates, and they're like, they've proper gone, and then they're like you saying, Scotty, they have a go at you. You fucking stupid, Jay. You're so nice, Jay, I'm so disappointed in you. I thought you'd know more than that. I thought you'd be better than that. Like, what?
Thought you were down. With the cause.
Well, sorry, I've not got my fucking chemistry set out.
That's what challenged me.
My own little experiments on these drugs, and fucking, I'm naive enough to think that the guy who who owns a social media company is fucking. I'm so naive. I don't believe the fact that a guy that's owns a social media company fucking cares about what I'm doing. It's just like, come on, man.
Have you seen that video of that guy, and he's kicking off about certificate of vaccination identification number, and he's with those cards?
No, this sounds awesome.
Oh, that's mad. I'm surprised you've not seen that. I went viral around like the first lockdown. I think he was from Rochdale or somewhere, and he was kicking off about what COVID stood for and like how it was. I've
seen that. Yeah, I've seen that. He's broke down the code. Yeah.
Oh, mate, is he not well?
Well, I've had my vaccine now, so if Bill Gates wants to become something, then
I've not had mine yet. What did you have? Which one?
I had Pfizer.
I had AstraZeneca, mate.
Because which one's the AstraZeneca supposed to have bad side effects on it?
All my hair fell out, so fucking I was fuming, mate.
Fucking hell, mate. And what a lovely head of hair you had as well.
Raging, mate. So they'll be getting a strongly worded tweet from me tomorrow. Don't fucking worry about that.
Don't you worry? No, you don't need to do that, mate, because fucking Bill Gates has logged all this calls.
Yeah. I'll just think it, and Bill Gates will send it for me. So yeah, I've got my follow up on Wednesday. But yeah.
Man.
You know, I just do as I'm told me nowadays, Scotty. In all walks of life, you know the dance.
I do. It's a lot easier to be led than to lead. Anyway, we've been Scotty, Motty, Youngy. If we offended anyone regarding our chat regarding Palestine and Israel, it really, really wasn't meant. And I assure you that James Young definitely condemns the IRA bomb, the IRA bomb, and Warrington bomb.
We did get a new shopping centre out of it. So
the one in town,
yes.
Do you know what I mean? So I'm not saying it was a good thing, but we did get that, you know. And let's face facts, that bit of the Arndale was fucking awful. It needed redoing. But
still looks awful now.
Yeah,
so.
That's true.
We'll say that for another podcast. Follow, subscribe, tell your mates, tell your mum. See you in a week.